Hey y'all, it's Friday, which means happy hour. I have wine. Listen, I am going to give you guys the rundown on the latest state of the Democratic primary. Woo! Let me tell you, I have a lot of I told you so's. And I have a lot of news in this whole breakdown I'm going to give you. But first, wine. Grab a glass if you haven't yet. And we have some really, really important things to go over. So, per usual, I'm going to post this first 2 minutes on Twitter. Follow me over to YouTube and subscribe to my channel so that you can get all the details. So, what am I going over today? Well, I have data. You got to have data. You can't just pull numbers out of your asshole. So I have data. I have polling data. I have aggregate data. I have forecast data. Then, of course, I have my 25 cents. Then I also have, just going through some headlines and things like that that are breaking. The pace of the race is picking up, y'all. And there are a lot of things that are going to factor into my analysis, my update today that I didn't necessarily have last time. So let's just get started with some of the biggest I told you so. Let me get those out of the way from jump. Last week, I told y'all that Bloomberg is somebody that should not be slept on. I said Bloomberg is not showing up yet in a lot of these polls and a lot of these forecasts, but I do think that he has a very effective strategy. Well, fast forward to this week, and what do we have? Bloomberg is really starting to show up in a lot of these polls. He's starting to supplant Elizabeth Warren in the aggregates and in many state polls. And he's even showing up in the forecast, in the delegate forecast. He wasn't doing those things last week. And so I told you so. That's my number one. Number two, I said that Buttigieg seemed like he could potentially be doing a lot better than what the polls suggested. And sure enough, what did he end up doing? He ended up winning by a thin margin, but winning. So I told you so. And I also told you that people are going to spin the details any which way. So now let's get to what's happening now. All right, so the state of the race. Let's go to the national polling data. Got lots of data here, y'all. Oh my God. So I'm going to just to make it easy on everybody so that you understand where I'm getting these numbers from. You can make your own analysis. You can draw your own conclusions, child. I'm just telling you my interpretation. Give you the numbers and I'm telling you my interpretation of them. So I'm going to use 270 to win. So I have some real clear politics polling aggregates and I have some other stuff, but I did like this new, it seems to me new, update on 270towin.com/2020 Democratic nomination. You can figure that out. So the polling averages, the state of the race. Biden is still in first place, 26% polling average. Bernie Sanders is 21.6% polling average in second place. Elizabeth Warren is in third place with 14%. Michael Bloomberg is in fourth place with 10.2%. Pete Buttigieg is in fifth place with 8.4%. Amy Klobuchar has 4.2%. Andrew Yang has 3.6%. Tom Steyer, I like to call him cheating ass, Tom Steyer, has 2.4% polling average. Tulsi Gabbard, 1.8%. Michael Bennet, 0.5, Deval Patrick, 0.3. So let me just start off with Deval Patrick. Deval Patrick is clearly running for vice president, okay? Now, the calculation that I bet he's making is that there is perhaps a scenario where people might get a little skittish about putting a woman on the ticket, particularly if it seems like the electorate isn't really demanding that sort of representation. And so if you can't have a woman, you need a person of color / a male. You can't just put it just straight white male. Well, you can, but they might not be so inclined to do this. So enter Deval Patrick. If you run in the race, then you do have a better shot of being selected for VP. That's the calculation I bet that he must make, because he clearly has no viable path whatsoever to being the president. But I said this, you guys can go pull up the receipts on me. I said from last year in the summertime, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw an Eric Holder or Deval Patrick picked as a VP to one of these white male candidates. So I think that's his calculation. Michael Bennet, though, I just really have no idea what the hell he's doing in this goddamn race. This motherfucker has no chance of winning. He not raising money. Just drop out. John Delaney ass finally dropped out after all this time. Michael Bennet, go ahead and drop the hell out. Tulsi Gabbard, girl. Your chances of winning this goddamn nomination are about as high as your chance of winning that $500 or $50 million defamation suit that she filed against Hillary Clinton. It ain't happening. But I don't know. Maybe she figures she'll be VP too. I don't know, child. But she need to go ahead and drop out too. I'm going to leave the rest alone because those are just the real obvious ones. I had to get those out the way off the rip. Now, here is a case where the polling averages are doing some pretty heavy lifting for Joe Biden, because really in a lot of the more recent polls, Joe Biden has slipped a bit. Now it's gone back and forth. It's not universal where he's not in first place, but you have some polls where Bernie Sanders is in first place. So far though, Joe Biden is solidly in first or second place in his national polls. Now, we are starting to see, and I mean, y'all are starting to see really more so than me because I've been new. This race for the nomination is not a national race. It is a state-by-state race. It is a delegate race. You need 1,990 delegates or pledged delegates, which is a majority of the pledged delegates, to win the nomination outright. Okay, on the first ballot. There will be no super delegates on the first ballot. That is one of the rules that Bernie Sanders insisted on putting in place. Now, he insisted on Iowa caucuses being caucuses and all this other shit, and you see how that worked out. So maybe all of this stuff that Bernie Sanders is insisting on will backfire in his goddamn face. But as it stands right now, those are what the rules are. And so whatever your national polling is that it doesn't really matter because you're not going to get national delegates. You're going to get them in each state. So Biden has reason to feel pretty decent about his polling, still holding it, hanging in there on the national level. But the polling at the state level is where things are starting to heat up, okay, for Biden. So that's that on that. Pete Buttigieg is still not really that great nationally. His strength has always been in the earlier whiter states. But, you never know if Biden collapses. He seemed to make a very persuasive case for himself in Iowa that he is a nicer, younger alternative, emphasis on younger, to Joe Biden. And so, the media definitely plays into that. I just saw him on TMZ Live. I don't know if you guys saw that tweet. And so he's really making his rounds. He seems to have a really stellar campaign operation in terms of their organization, heads and shoulders above Joe Biden, clearly. And it seems like it's even rivaling Elizabeth Warren. And so Pete Buttigieg still not really competitive as much on the national polling, but things can change. And so I'm not necessarily counting him out, especially if the media really wants to make fetch happen or something happens with Pete supporters in the donor class and in the elite class, if they want to make some moves for him. Michael Bloomberg. Okay, Michael Bloomberg is in fourth place now. Okay, solidly fourth place. There's more consistent polling showing him in fourth place, just behind Elizabeth Warren. Actually, a Morning Consult poll had him ahead of Elizabeth Warren into third place. And in some cases, he's tied with her. And so Michael Bloomberg is on the upswing. I've been telling y'all this. Now I know you guys are going to say, didn't you make a video saying Michael Bloomberg don't run because your ass ain't going to win? I did say that. And I did come back later and I said, well, I must have counted his ass wrong. Okay, I underestimated him. So you can always throw it in my face, but also understand that I realized I underestimated him a lot sooner than the law y'all motherfuckers did. Okay, be clear. And so Michael Bloomberg is on the upswing. Okay, all these goddamn commercials. He done spent $200 million. He has a lot of staff. He has subcontractors that are making calls, that are doing the kind of stuff. People say, oh, it's just an ads campaign going to win. It's not just an ad campaign. He has people out there that are canvassing. He has people out there that are making calls. Like I said, he has people out there doing the work. Okay, so that's why you're not just seeing it's reductive, and I don't say that necessarily because I have any affection for Michael Bloomberg, but it's a little reductive to just say that he's only running an ads campaign. He's out there putting boots on the ground just like other candidates have been in other states. They don't necessarily have the resources to do what he can do with his ground game. I'll have more on Bloomberg later though. All right. So Elizabeth Warren You know, she's getting in the lower double digits. She's getting third or fourth. That ain't gonna be enough, girl. Not gonna be enough. And so there are some huge warning signs for Liz. It seems like Liz is declining because of Michael Bloomberg. A lot of people have assumed that Michael Bloomberg is just taking so much away from Liz. That doesn't necessarily seem to be as much the case, to be honest. I mean, people think that Michael Bloomberg is taking so much from Joe Biden. The numbers don't necessarily reflect that as much because really it's Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders that seem to be, and nationally speaking, okay, I'm just talking about national, where you know, when Biden is up, Bernie is down a little bit, and vice versa. So Bloomberg is really cutting into Elizabeth Warren, really cutting into Pete Buttigieg. That's what he's really taking away from at this time. And Bernie Sanders, oh my God, y'all know how I feel about Bernie Sanders. I can't stand Bernie goddamn Sanders. But Bernie fucking Sanders is a problem. And I told y'all, this is my other I told you so. I told y'all motherfuckers, is anybody gonna run against goddamn Bernie Sanders? Or y'all just gonna let him waltz his ass to the goddamn nomination? People waited too long to try to go after Bernie Sanders. Now, to Pete Buttigieg's credit, he did throw his little digs or whatever. Joe Biden, I said, Joe, where you at? January 4th, go back, rewind the tape. I said, you don't want to engage with Bernie Sanders. Why are you alluding to his issues instead of engaging with them? Or at least making sure that the shit that you know is happening comes out and comes out forcefully. But everybody said, no, you don't punch down. Punch down where? That's what I said. Punch down where? They neck and neck. But anyway, Bernie Sanders is a motherfucking problem. Okay? Because Bernie Sanders raised $25 billion in January alone. He has the ability to raise a good amount of money. He certainly doesn't have the bad news in the polling picture, in the electoral map that other people do. And he has a much more staunch set of supporters that aren't all waffly based on how the polling looks or whatever. And so somebody got to do something. Now, let's talk about Tom Steyer. Tom punk-ass Steyer sent up there a groupie for Bernie Sanders because he done sat up here and released this attack ad in South Carolina attacking Pete Buttigieg and Joe Biden by name. But then he just said socialist instead of calling out the actual Democratic socialist, which is Bernie Sanders. What motherfucking good are you, Tom Steyer? If you're going to sit up there and put out an attack ad that's attacking the Democrats, but then you don't even attack all these motherfuckers. I mean, the person you really need to be going for is Bernie Sanders. Now, do they have some sort of non-aggression pact? I have to wonder about that because Bernie Sanders was sitting up there talking shit about Pete Buttigieg and listing off a fucking headline about, oh, look at all these billionaires that are supporting Pete Buttigieg. Okay, so you have billionaires supporting Pete Buttigieg, but you also have billionaires running against Pete Buttigieg and all you motherfuckers. Michael Bloomberg done spent $200 million. You ain't even got no energy for them, but you're talking about Pete Buttigieg. So that makes me wonder. I mean, Bernie Sanders has every reason to be afraid of Michael Bloomberg, so maybe that's why he ain't really try to go all the way in right there, right now. But for Tom Steyer, I don't understand that. That's fishy, okay? Catch that. I'm catching that right now as we speaking. Because as evil as billionaire is supposed to be, he ain't got no energy for Tom Steyer. And Tom Steyer is so groupie. Bernie, hi, I just want to say hi. I just want to say hi, Bernie. Get your punk ass out of here, Tom Steyer, who stole Kamala Harris's South Carolina data. Let me get another drink off of that. All right. That's enough on this national data because we got to get to the state data. Now, I might come back. We'll see if the situation changes and do an in-depth thing on New Hampshire to explain how that's going to work out. But New Hampshire is up next, y'all. All right. So let's talk about New Hampshire. Let's get to this Real Clear Politics polling average. All right, RCP average. In first place, we have Bernie Sanders, 26.7 polling average. Pete Buttigieg, 22%. Elizabeth Warren, 13%. All right, so you see that y'all count, right? 22 minus 13, that's a 9. That's a drop off of 9. She's at 13%. Tied with Elizabeth Warren, Joe Biden. Joe Biden is at 13% in Iowa. That's fourth place. Put a pin in that. Then we have Amy Klobuchar at 8%. Tulsi Gabbard at 4.7%. Andrew Yang at 3%. Tom Steyer at 2.7%. Y'all not worried? Y'all Biden people, y'all some belligerent ass motherfuckers. Because I've been telling y'all ain't trying to hear shit. I told y'all, Biden is in trouble. Biden is in trouble. That's just what it is. That's what the data says, y'all. And I'm gonna get into it more, but I'm just stick a pin in that. But I have more on that. Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders, now he has a little bit of competition because there have been times where he's been polling in the 30s. Well, now he's in the higher mid-20s. Pete Buttigieg is gaining in New Hampshire. And he owes a lot of that credit to kind of solidifying that to his victory. And I'm going to call it that. Congratulations, Pete, by the way. Listen, I know Pete doesn't have a lot of fans and some of the people that follow me. That's fine. I don't congratulate or not congratulate people based on who follows me, child. I'll congratulate them based on my goddamn opinion. And I will acknowledge, I think it was worth acknowledging that Pete Buttigieg is a historic candidate, okay? Y'all know he has white privilege. All right, I understand that. I know he's at 0% with the black vote. I understand that. But the fact of the matter is he won what they use to classify the winner, which is state delegate equivalents. He won that in Iowa. Congratulations. Because I'm telling you, if that was Kamala, I would be like, put some respect on my girl's name. So congratulations to Pete. Now, people say, oh, Iowa doesn't matter. It does. It actually does matter. There are very real implications that came out of Iowa. One of the better things that came out of Iowa was the fact that everybody sees Iowa as a shit show. Okay, and it likely won't be going first anymore. So that's good. But what it did is it provided a fundraising boon for some people. It provided a boost in polling, in particular to Pete Buttigieg. It didn't do any harm to Bernie Sanders, which was very good for him. It did a lot of harm, though, to Elizabeth Warren and to Joe Biden in particular, the fundraising. Now, if you watched my videos earlier this week, this isn't news to you. But let me just recap just real quick. Elizabeth Warren had to cancel $500,000 in ads. Okay? So that's not good. In Nevada and in South Carolina. By the way, in Nevada, there was an article about 6 women of color leaving her staff because of issues in the environment. This and the other. People say, oh, don't talk about political. Listen, y'all, I don't give a damn who's writing what stories now, okay? These ain't my candidates anymore. All right? So, political, CNN, whoever the fuck, it don't matter to me. All right? It is what it is. That's what the story. The story is that people felt like Elizabeth Warren, her campaign didn't have respect for the black folks. They was tokenized and they were silenced and this, that, and the other. Okay, so take that what you will. So Elizabeth Warren's, her little operation's looking a little shaky right now. Okay, her money's looking a little funny. Her operation's looking a little shaky. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm just a player in the game. All right. And Biden, his shit is a little shaky too. Did y'all see today that he had a little staff shake up a little bit where he had was it Anita Dunn? What's her name? Whatever her name is. Y'all don't quote me, but Anita somebody or another has been promoted of sorts. He didn't get rid of his campaign manager, but she's doing more than just communications now. Okay, that's fine. But you know what that says to me? The donors said, look, motherfucker, somebody got to do something around here because whatever your ass was doing in Iowa didn't fucking work. And it didn't. Goddamn, he did so bad in Iowa. Shit. 4th place, 15% just barely viable. Didn't even get any delegates out of Iowa? I have to go back and check. What the hell was you doing, goddamn Joe Biden? Let me see. Do they have it? Okay, no, he did. He got 6 delegates. But anyway, Donors are like, what you gonna do, Joe? Because we're not gonna give your ass no money and you still fucking up. And so he said, okay, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm not gonna shake it up too bad. I'm just gonna go ahead and put her over something or another, final authority making decisions and call it a goddamn day. I don't know if that's gonna be enough though to keep these donors on ice. Michael Bloomberg is setting up a committee of donors that don't have to spend no money. How do I get on this goddamn committee, chair? I can tell your ass what to do as a presidential candidate. I ain't got to spend no coin. Maybe I might be interested in something like that. I'm just joking. I don't want to have nothing to do with that motherfucker. But I'm just saying, don't that sound like a good deal? That sounds like a good deal to me. And so the benefit of that is that Mike Bloomberg pulls away Joe Biden's donors, his skittish donors, and he can't make no money. He can't be viable. That's Joe's number one problem. It's been his problem this entire time. Like I said, he got a Kamala bailout because somebody's punk ass shut down Kamala and said, all you donors need to go to Joe Biden. So let's go back to the data. All right. So Iowa helped out Pete a lot. It helped him out in the narrative. Okay. It helped him out in perceptions. Maybe this guy is viable. Maybe this guy can win. It really damaged Joe Biden. It really kind of makes Michael Bloomberg look like a genius. Like, Michael Bloomberg was like, I'm looking at y'all like, I don't think none of y'all motherfuckers gonna win. Let me go ahead and get my rich ass in this race just in case some shit changes. And, well, looks like that wasn't a bad calculation after all. And so that's that on that with what I think came out of Iowa. I think people are being overly dismissive of Iowa. It definitely had an impact. New Hampshire, a lot is riding on New Hampshire. So tonight is the debate. We'll see if anything comes out of it. I mean, so far they haven't been game changers. It's more of like a do no harm type of thing. I don't know how effective it will be to come out like guns blazing, because, that doesn't necessarily tend to play too well in these earlier states. And it might come across as desperate. You know that the pundits is going to drag whoever the fuck is going after somebody. Oh, they look desperate. They're trying to blah, 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 blah. You got to stay ready, though, so you ain't got to get ready. So I don't know. I'm not going to probably be at home to watch it. So I don't really care. But if something can happen for some of these people, like an Elizabeth Warren or Joe Biden, now would be the time to try, Joe. If you have it in you, put some pep in your step, put some punch in your delivery. So that's that on that. Amy Klobuchar is literally, she's totally not viable after Nevada, New Hampshire. She has no path whatsoever. But I'm assuming maybe she just did Iowa and she did New Hampshire just to kind of give herself some sort of leverage and credibility in the VP department to say, hey, I had this really, really small campaign operation that didn't have a lot of money, but I still was able to kind of hold my own a little bit compared to Joe Biden. That might be persuasive to some people. I'm not entirely convinced that there won't be a white woman on the ticket. And Amy Klobuchar probably would be at the top of that list. Because they feel like the real Americans, the Midwest Americans, or want somebody that can appeal to the white suburban woman. So that's where I see probably a white woman like Amy Klobuchar coming in. And white woman is not a slur, people. Heidi Klum, for the record. Anyway, so that's that on that. That's that on New Hampshire. I think a lot is riding on it. I know a lot is riding on it. A lot of people are saying these first two states don't matter. They're super white states. They matter because of money. Period. The next contest after New Hampshire is Nevada. That's a caucus. And that one is going to be difficult, as well, because here's another caucus states. And, people show that they don't really have the organization that they need to really take advantage of all the different rules. So Nevada is a full 11 days after New Hampshire. That's a long time. If your ass done lost 2 contests already, the media's frying you up, your donors are deserting you. You still got to try to make something happen in Super Tuesday in South Carolina. That's going to be difficult for some people. So, you know, you can believe or not believe, but I think it's going to be, people are going to have some come to Jesus moments. Nevada might be a last stand for one or more of these candidates. So let's talk about what we have in Nevada. Polling averages. Joe Biden's still on top, 21% polling average. Bernie Sanders, 17.5. Warren, 11.5. Tom Steyer, 10%. Pete Buttigieg, 7%. Yang, 4%. Klobuchar, 3%. Gabbard, 1.5%. All right, so these are some kind of older polls. Let me see if they have anything more current. I'm not seeing anything more current on this one. So yeah, I don't know. It's hard to really read the Nevada ones. I did see some polling, not on this particular, the RCP averages, that did seem like Sanders was actually ahead there. And Biden was fading a little bit. From what people have been reporting, Pete Buttigieg has a really good ground game there. Joe Biden does not. So that could make the difference like it did in Iowa. Obviously, you're going to point out, well, Iowa's super white and Nevada has more diversity. This is true. So take what you want from that, if whatever you want. Now let's talk about South Carolina. And then I'm going to try to wrap this video up because it's already been long. I think I've been talking too much, y'all. But it is what it is today. Y'all still here. Thank you for watching. So, RCP average for South Carolina. Joe Biden still up there, 31%. He is hanging on with South Carolina. That is his firewall, if he's still even financially viable by then. Second place, 18.5%. Tom Steyer. Tom cheating ass Steyer, as I like to say. He stole Kamala Harris's data in South Carolina. Bernie Sanders, 17%. Elizabeth Warren, 9.5%. Pete Buttigieg, 5.5%. Andrew Yang, 3%. Gabbard, 2.5%. Klobuchar, 2%. All right, y'all. What you gonna do? Tom Steyer is gaining. Okay. Now, in one of these polls, they have Joe Biden at 37% to Tom Steyer's 19%. But in another poll, they have Joe Biden at 25% to Tom Steyer's 18%. So there is a long way to go between now. Now, South Carolina is February 29th, okay? That's a long time in politics. Again, keep in mind, what do we have between now and then? You have New Hampshire and you have Nevada. You have a lot of money that's going to take to compete in those two. And you're going to have a lot of narrative and headwinds, right? So I know everybody wants to say the black vote, the black vote, the black vote. Joe Biden has the black vote. Nothing counts until black people vote. If you're still in the race. If you're still viable. And quiet as it's kept. I've been seeing a whole lot more comments from black folks. What have I been hearing? This is anecdotal evidence. Well, it looks like it might be Michael Bloomberg that'll be the nomination. The worst thing that'll be the nominee, the worst thing that can happen to Joe Biden is black people seeing Bloomberg as a viable alternative. You know, listen, Bloomberg has the money. He has good ads. He has the infrastructure. He has he got some punch to him. He has some bite to his bark when it comes to his stuff against Donald Trump. He's been cozying up to Obama with his ads. Y'all gonna say stop and frisk, just like I said stop and frisk. And let me tell you something, people don't give a shit. The rules only apply to women. And in particular to black women. Because y'all fried up Kamala Harris over the lies on her record. Here you got goddamn stop and frisk Bill Bloomberg, author of the crime bill, Biden, a champion of the crime bill, as it turns out. Bernie is a cop. And y'all don't even give a shit. So don't even talk to me about fucking stop and frisk because y'all don't care. So that's that with that. If I'm Bloomberg, what I'm going to emphasize is that I'm rich as fuck and I can self-fund and I have all this money to spend and other people don't. Because, you know, if you can't raise the money, how are you going to win? And that's a very, very, very real vulnerability for Joe Biden that he has to overcome. I don't know if he's going to be able to do it. I don't know if he's going to be able to do it quickly. Y'all can marinate on that. Tom Steyer, he's just nothing but a pain in the ass, really, because he's not viable outside of South Carolina, which he's like basically parked his ass in for all these months. He ain't really got a path, but maybe, like I said, he's a groupie for Bernie Sanders, so maybe he just want to be Bernie Sanders VP. But anyway, that's that on South Carolina. Then we get to Super Tuesday. I'm not gonna go into all that stuff because, like I said, this already been long. One more thing I will go to, though, is let's talk about two more things. So morning consult. So a lot of things I've heard is, well, Elizabeth Warren is her supporters are going to go to this person or to that person or these supporters. Well, what you guys have to understand is that it's not like a 1-for-1. A lot of times the second choice polling or second choice voters preferences for these candidates, there might be a candidate that's like 30%, but then the other candidates are like 20%, 15%. And so all of these candidates stand to gain from each other dropping out or each other doing poorly. For Joe Biden, right now, Bernie Sanders is the second choice of Biden supporters at 27%. This is according to Morning Consult. Michael Bloomberg is at 21%. Then you have Elizabeth Warren down 19%. For Sanders supporters, Elizabeth Warren is the biggest beneficiary at 29%, but just behind her is Joe Biden at 27%. Then you have Andrew Yang. Michael Bloomberg, second choice for them is 36% Joe Biden. Then you have 14% Bernie Sanders / Elizabeth Warren. I guess they don't differentiate for those two, or they're both maybe 14%. And then you have Pete Buttigieg at 10%. For Elizabeth Warren, 35% go to Bernie Sanders, but 22% go to Joe Biden, 10% to Amy Klobuchar, 10% to Pete Buttigieg. And Pete Buttigieg supporters, 21% go to Joe Biden, 19% Elizabeth Warren, 15% Michael Bloomberg, 15% Bernie Sanders. So just keep this in mind, that if you're looking at polling data, let's say Pete Buttigieg has 10%, it's not going to be, all right, Pete drops out, 10% go to Joe Biden. That's not how that works. All right, so that's what I want to say about that. Now, let's go to the 538 forecast. I'll try to wrap this up. Interestingly enough, so I talked about the odds. The odds are not in people's favor. Now, last week, again, I pointed out that Michael Bloomberg had not made it into the forecast for 538. I thought that was probably a result of very little polling data outside of the early states. Now we're getting more polling data in those early states. Well, there's a big change in the odds of any candidate winning more than half of pledged delegates. And I'm going to have an I told you so again. So now the greatest odds go to Bernie Sanders. 2 and 5, 45% odds of winning more than half of the pledged delegates. Second place, nobody. 1 and 4%. There's a 25% chance based on this forecast that nobody will get enough pledged delegates. I told you so. Didn't I say, haven't I been saying that a brokered convention is very possible? I have. And haven't I been saying that Michael Bloomberg would benefit probably the most out of a brokered convention? Now, if that's accurate or not remains to be seen. You can stick a pin in that. But just know that I've been saying that the odds of a brokered convention are quite high. It didn't reflect that at all last week, but this week, well, now it's changed, where that's now the second place option or odds. Third place is Joe Biden. Joe Biden has fell down to 1 and 5% chance of winning more than half pledged delegates at 20%. Warren is now down to 1 and 20 at 5%. Pete Buttigieg 1 and 25 4%. Michael Bloomberg, he's on the ball. He's on the map with 1 and 100 at 1%. I think it's higher than that, but that's what he's on the map for. Now the averages, the forecasted average outcomes that 538 is predicting is Bernie Sanders getting 1,686 pledged delegates out of these contests on average. Now, The magic number is not 1,686. The magic number is not just one more than everybody else. The magic number is 1,990, which means he's not going to get that. All right. Joe Biden, average outcomes falls all the way down to 1,017. Pete Buttigieg has gone up now at 424, above Elizabeth Warren, who's now down to 419. Michael Bloomberg is right behind Elizabeth Warren at 349, and Amy Klobuchar down at 49. All right. So now you have all these data points. Okay. A lot more of my commentary too. So I hope you were able to catch the data and draw your own conclusions based on what I said. I still maintain that Michael Bloomberg is in a really good position right now. I'm not saying he's going to be the nominee, child. I'm not saying that I endorse Michael Bloomberg. I'm just saying stop sleeping on Michael Bloomberg. I'm also saying I be knowing what I'm talking about. He has been really heavily courting local officials, the kinds of people that are super delegates, y'all. Do the math. Somebody asked what happens if a candidate drops out. What happens to their pledged delegates? Well, technically, their pledged delegates become uncommitted. Now, if that candidate decides that they want to endorse a candidate, typically, but they aren't obligated to, typically, those delegates would just go to the person that dropped out endorsed. But that's not an obligation. So there will be some wheeling and dealing here. People will probably want to really try to avoid a brokered convention because that would be a shit show. I think that the biggest threat right now is Bernie Sanders. And so I think people have said, oh, I don't think that Michael Bloomberg is trying to win. He is. $200 million, y'all. You think that's just for shits and giggles? No, he wants to win. And he has a path. But he hasn't gone after Bernie yet. So I will start really kind of looking at Michael Bloomberg and taking him as an even more serious threat if he starts going after Bernie Sanders, because that's what y'all need to be going after. Bernie Sanders at this point is the biggest threat to everybody in this race. So yeah, overall, if I can just wrap this up, put a button on it, or what do you call it? Wrap it up, put a bow on it, button it up. I would say that the race is very fluid. I think that, again, don't just look at the polls. Don't just look at the demographics of who's polling with what. You have to look at the money. The money is going to be the biggest differentiating factor. Y'all dogged out my girl Kamala when she looked at the numbers and crunched them. You know she has an economics degree from Howard, so she knows numbers. And she said, I don't have a path forward. She was right. Everybody else had to come to that conclusion. Cory Booker, Julian Castro, they had to figure that out. And these candidates that are left are going to be no different. They aren't. Don't matter. Like I said, polls is not money. And votes only take you so far if you can't compete. So if I'm Bernie Sanders people, I'm feeling pretty good right now. If I'm Elizabeth Warrenista, I'm not feeling good. If I'm a Joe Biden person, I'm not feeling good. Pete Buttigieg, y'all just probably happy to be here, huh? And Michael Bloomberg, I'm gonna tell you what, them people that got on the Michael Bloomberg train early, the mayors and shit that got their little coin, they're looking pretty smart right now. That is a big reason why I did the video. I don't know if you guys remember when this story leaked about Kamala endorsing Joe Biden. I said, not today. Show me the receipts. Because I'm looking and I'm like, well, why the hell would she do that? Joe Biden does not look strong going into this. This was a couple weeks ago. And I already saw the writing on the wall there. Now you're going to say, yeah, why are you trying to write off Joe? Don't shoot the fucking messenger, okay? I didn't decide to put goddamn Joe Biden in 4th place in New Hampshire. I didn't decide that Joe Biden should go broke. I don't have nothing to do with that. But if I'm Kamala, I'm just looking at the writing on the wall, child. Joe Biden ain't gonna make it. And so I might throw my lot in with goddamn Michael Bloomberg. if I was Kamala. Or I would stay the fuck neutral. No harm in doing that either. But whatever you do, just there's no point in dealing with Elizabeth Warren because she's gonna be dropping out. So sorry. And Bernie Sanders, don't do that either. So yeah. Anyways, all right. So that's all I have for now. What I'm going to do, because this video has been super long, lots of stuff. I'm sorry. I last time I did 25 minutes, and this time it's 40 minutes. I don't want to say it's 3 of y'all, because then it'd be like, it's more than 3 of us. Okay, maybe it's 6 of y'all still watching. If I talk too damn much in this video, y'all just want to hear the numbers, then you can, leave me a Twitter comment. I'm deactivating these goddamn YouTube comments because these motherfuckers on YouTube are some assholes. And I ain't got time for it. But y'all have to leave me a Twitter comment and be like, girl, shut up. Don't give us all that commentary. Just give us the goddamn numbers. And that's fine. Maybe I will. But I'm going to cut this video off, and I'm going to go look through my questions, and I'm going to answer the questions that you guys have as best as I can. And that'll be part 2. So stay tuned for that. And maybe, like I said, maybe I'll be back with a primary on New Hampshire. It certainly won't be this long. It might be 10-15 minutes on Sunday. But thanks for tuning in. And we on this ride together, y'all. So let's see what happens and see how many more I told you so's I'll get out of this process.